Mr. Mann is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here again today. I represent 60 primary rural counties in central western Kansas, a little bit eastern as well. In Kansas, we know full well that it's imperative that our highways and roads are drivable, that commercial and cargo aviation are able to efficiently operate, and that our railroads are able to deliver goods and provide the transportation that we all need. A handful of questions, Mr. Secretary. America, as you know, we have 5,000 commercial-grade airports. Yet only 500 of these airports are currently served by commercial services. Around the country, we've seen a steady decline in air services, with more than 150 communities losing air service in the last 20 years. In rural Kansas, this issue is all too real. FAA Administrator Whitaker has emphasized the need for regional aircraft with a capacity between 9 and 50 seats to better serve these smaller communities, and mentioned plans to prioritize manufacturing efforts for such aircraft. How do you envision new generation regional aircraft helping to restore regional air service, and what plans does DOT have to accelerate the production of smaller regional aircraft in the country?
Well, thanks for the question, and certainly can relate to the perspective of a community served by a small airport, wondering whether there's a future for commercial air service there. And part of what I think is compelling about the FAA's most recent work is how it might be able to open up new opportunities in that kind of sandwiched category between one size of aircraft and the next that's a step up. Of course, our primary imperative has to do with safety. That'll guide everything that the FAA does. But we also want to make sure we're paying attention to the economic dimensions of that, to the extent that we're permitted to do that through some of the authorities that we have on the OST side of the house. And we make sure that our team works alongside the FAA. Safety folks, because we've seen what EAS has done and can do for support of air service to small communities and rural areas, but we also see there's much more need than has been supported by the resources that we have.
And we got to keep delivering aircraft in the certain size that's going to make these smaller airports continue to be viable, as I see it. Next question, Mr. Secretary. In my mind, it's imperative that we maintain our nation's highways and roads so our economies and supply chains can thrive. I think we all agree on that. As has been mentioned earlier today, electric batteries are far heavier than car batteries, and no doubt these heavier vehicles are going to lead to more wear and tear on our roads quicker than gas-powered cars. Has the DOT considered how its electric vehicle mandates might impact our roads, or offered any thoughts on how these vehicles will pay their fair share when it comes to contributing to the Highway Trust Fund?
Well, if the DOT were ever to contemplate an electric vehicle mandate, we would do so. Since we have not, I wouldn't phrase it that way, but that's not to take away from the fact that we're conscious of the fact that the increasing use of EVs comes with increasingly heavy vehicles. By the way, so has consumer choice evolving more toward SUVs and trucks relative to what you would have seen 10, 20, 30 years ago, whether we're talking about combustion or EVs. And this brings me to one of my favorite, though admittedly unfashionable topics, which is pavement durability. I'd encourage you to, if you get the opportunity to visit our Turner Fairbanks facility operated by the Federal Highway Administration, not too far from where we're sitting here. And I was able to see a test bed we have there where there are 12 seemingly identical strips of asphalt next to each other. But if you dig beneath the surface, literally, what you would find is different makeup, different composite, different stacking, and about 300 sensors that are helping beam real-time information about how they weather the different conditions they're subject to. In terms of the other side of your question about funding, we're conscious that as we move toward an increasingly electric future, the gas tax model will not be sufficient to capture the principle of user pays, nor has it been sufficient for some time just to keep pace with demand. I think by the time of the next reauthorization, Congress and the country really will face a choice about whether to remain committed to the user pays principle, in which case there will have to be some revenue source that can equitably collect from EVs the same way that if you have a gas car, you're paying the gas tax, or be willing to set aside that principle, which in a way is happening de facto with the portion of the Highway Trust Fund that's being gapped with general fund dollars coming from Congress. But I don't think that's a considered decision. I think it's just a measure Congress has had to undertake in order to make ends meet.
Great, yeah. Thank you. I yield back the balance of my time. Thanks, Mr. Secretary.